Well, it's that time of the year again, so let's talk about my top 10 of 2024. I know this list is coming out months after my 2023 video, but hey, it's something to hold up the channel for a bit. So why are my top 10 videos late compared to everyone else? Basically, I wanted to make sure I see all the films I want to see and not rush out the list. I seen over 100 movies in 2024, and well damn, 2024 had a lot to offer. So this top 10 was very hard to make, as I want to make sure it's accurate to my thoughts and how I feel. I know some of you will be mad that there are some films that are not going to be on my list. Films like Doom Part 2 and A Real Pain I thought were good, but didn't do much for me. While films like Queer, I thought it has some unique qualities to the filmmaking, but it was so goddamn boring that it put me to sleep. That's why my list isn't called the best of the year, but instead, my favorites of the year. I tried to strike a balance of films that have great qualities, but also are entertaining to watch. Remember, this whole video is based off of one guy's opinion, and being one guy means a lot of hours recording and a lot of times slapping myself due to me stuttering a lot. So if my voice sounds a bit off, blame my stuttering. See right there, fuck stuttering. Anyway, like my last top 10, there'll be a lot of films on the list, and they are honorable mentions, but I don't title them as honorable mentions, as I don't want to treat them like they don't mean anything. So that's why my top 10 of 2023 is a top 22. And for this video, for how many movies I've seen from last year, it's a top 30. With that being said, let's get into this fucker. Starting off the list at number 30 is Deadpool & Wolverine, directed by that one guy who made Free Guy. This movie is a lot of fun to watch, although it's my least favorite in the Deadpool franchise. For now, let's get into the things I do like. First off, I love Deadpool & Wolverine's character dynamic, as they're like this gay couple. The main reason why I say that one fight scene in the car, I gotta be honest with you, that was definitely the movie's hidden way to say they're hate-f***ing each other. I really like the side characters, including the cameos. The music choices were really awesome, and the action is the best in the franchise. It's bloody, gory, and a lot of fun. Now, the main reason why this is at the bottom of the list, it has to do with the story. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like where the story went. However, it feels like it's missing something, not to mention the emotional stuff. It doesn't really work for me, unlike the first two. The main villain, she was just okay. But despite my issues with the film, Deadpool & Wolverine is a damn good action film, and I prefer this over Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, that's right, I said a f*** you. Coming in at number 29 will shock you. It's Inside Out 2. Yeah, this video didn't age well. Before we get to the reason why my rating went from a 9 to a 7, I want to say the things I still like. I still love the main story. I love where it ended off. The characters are more fleshed out, despite there being a bit of repeating. And has my opinion changed on the character Envy? Nope. She is still useless, despite her character literally being the embodiment of jealousy. I love how Anxiety is kind of the anti-hero in this. Her intentions mean well for Riley, but the way she's going about it, it can be disastrous. The animation is great as always from Pixar, and I still find the movie very charming. However, as much as this one is an improvement to the first, but now it brings up more problems. For a movie focusing on a kid, how did Riley never experience any emotions like boredom or envy? Those emotions are default to everyone. Did Riley live in a bubble? Another thing to point out, for the movie to focus on Riley hanging out with these teenagers that are older than her, these are some of the fakest teens I ever seen in a kids film. Like, I'm not expecting them to swear or go to parties, but at least make these teens actually feel like teenagers and not just kids with deeper voices. As much as Inside Out 2 has more world building, but it felt like something was missing. But yet this movie's 2 minutes longer, but it feels shorter than that. And there's more things I want to say, but I would be here for another 10 minutes. For some of you gonna say how negative I'm being for this movie, and you might be correct, but I'm not an Adam. I still love Inside Out 2 and I still recommend it. I just hope Pixar's more careful with their concepts and world building, but I know that's not happening anytime soon. Up next is How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. Yeah, that's right, that's a real movie title. This movie is from Thailand. It's about a college dropout named M, as he tries to get on his grandma's good side to inherit her money when she dies. I love where the story was going. The characters were a lot of fun and sometimes relatable. And I like the idea of the main character M being kind of a selfish asshole at times, but as the film goes on, he starts to change as a person, while some of the family members show their true colors. And towards the end, I started getting teary-eyed. There's 2 big problems that's keeping this movie from being higher on the list. There's about 10 minutes of this movie that's repeating itself and could have easily been cut out. And my second issue, the main lead has a cousin in this, and the way they talk to each other, it feels a little bit Alabama, if you know what I mean. Even with that weird shit, this is a fantastic movie that has a lot of heart and is very well made, and it's very easy to follow, despite it being another language. And number 27 is the film that the president hates, The Apprentice. Putting politics aside for a second, based on true events, this film is about young Donald Trump, who starts in the bottom in the 70s and goes to the top of fame and fortune with the help of the infamous lawyer, Roy Cohn. Sebastian Stan does a great job with his performance, and what makes his portrayal refreshing is this is a much younger Trump and not the older one we make fun of. It still doesn't mean the character Sebastian plays is a great person, but it does show what happened, and even though the movie does humanize Trump, but you gotta remember, Trump is not someone that came from outer space, but not enough to where you fully agree, especially how his lawyer influences decisions and the way he acts, and become the monster he is today. Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn is also good, and much like Trump, humanizes him in a way where, even though the shit he does is terrible, is for the greater good for business and money. And the moments between him and Sebastian's character are so good to watch. Although I wish there was more Roy in the movie to show more about his character. The movie does have its biopic moments, but what helps this movie stand out is its cinematography. It reminds me a bit of Blackberry, but has more of a found footage look, where the lighting is harsh, and some shots are filmed like it's a home recording. It gives the movie more of a unique personality. Now, is this movie going to be for everyone? That's debatable, but to me, even though the movie's about a person that I really hate, but if the writing is spot on, and you're very open-minded to viewing something out of your comfort zone, and The Apprentice does it very well. Up next on this list is Sonic 3. Now I know what a lot of you are going to say, why am I putting this kid's movie on the list? It's stupid. Yes, I agree. It is stupid, but in a good way. Second, f*** you. This is my favorites list. Now I gotta be honest with you, I never played the Sonic games or even watched the cartoons, but I do like the movies, and this is my favorite so far. The character development is so damn good. Sonic's character arc is basic, but I love how it's executed. Shadow's a f***ing badass. I like how his backstory is tragic, but the film does show that he isn't some edgelord who wants to pee at a hot topic. Jim Carrey's great as always, especially that he's playing two characters in this, but I am disappointed he didn't say this in the movie.
I come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch-ass motherfucker.
Yes, the film has cliches, but it works for a film like this, especially when it has moments where it teared up. The one thing I really do appreciate, it doesn't have a stupid human subplot that doesn't add anything to the story. The action is so fun to watch, and the music is amazing. As much as I love Sonic 3, I do have some issues with the movie. The pacing for Sonic 3 is a bit rushed, and I wish the action lasted longer. There are some parts in the story that didn't make any sense, and the last thing to get into without spoiling anything, there's something that happens in particular to where Sonic's allies don't trust him or his friends, but yet it was never resolved. I hope they bring this up in the sequel. If not, I'll be really disappointed, as it has so much potential. Anyway, Sonic 3 is a great kids movie, and despite me not being a Sonic fan, I'm surely ready for the next adventures of Sonic and his friends. Up next at number 25 is Heretic, and this one was one of the biggest surprises for me. The way the trailers made this movie out to be, it felt like it was going to be more of your typical horror film, but when I got a chance to watch it in the theater, it was completely different. This movie is about two Mormon girls going to a house to convert someone to their religion, but the one person they meet up, he has plans for them. The main reason why this movie really surprised me is that 70% of this movie is a debate about religion, and they make it so interesting. As someone who is not religious, this movie is a really great discussion piece about religion, and there's some moments when they're bashing it, I start laughing as I agree with everything they're saying. And what makes it really work is the performance by Hugh Grant. And the two other performances, they're really good as well, but what makes this movie really work is the pacing. It has horror elements, but it's mostly a thriller. The only thing I'm being iffy about this movie is how it ended, and even though I feel like it did conclude the movie, but I felt like it needed a little bit more time to flesh things out. But despite that, it's a great movie, and it's a great discussion piece about religion. At number 24 is the winner for Best Animated Feature, Flow. One of the more interesting animated films, as this one has no dialogue at all, and it is about a black cat and a group of animals trying to survive after the entire world has flooded. One thing to get out of the way, did this deserve to win? Yes, but there was an animated film that I thought was much better, but we'll get to that later on. The story for Flow is simple but straight to the point. And despite there being no talking animals, they have so much personality based on their facial expressions and their behavior, especially the cat, who has been celebrated all around the world. Beautiful animation, good music, and so much good stuff all around. Not much left to say, but at number 23 on the list is the teen comedy drama, Dee Dee. And no, not Diddy, you f***ing idiot. The film takes place in 2008, and it's about a kid named Chris who's trying to find ways to be cool during the few weeks of summer break. This film is an absolute love letter to the 2000s, and even though I wasn't a teenager during those times, I still recognize a lot of things, like early YouTube, which, by the way, I love how the teenagers in this movie actually act like teenagers. The teens do stuff like swearing and doing some stupid shit, unlike me, who was a boring piece of shit who had no p***s. Enough about me, let's talk about the movie itself. Well, the acting is really damn good. The main lead, Isaac Wang, he is so damn good in this, and there's a lot of times I related to his character. The other performances from the mom, the friends, and the sister, they all do a really good job here as well. Even though this movie has a runtime of 90 minutes, I didn't feel bored once. The only negative thing I could give this movie, even though every character got time to shine, I wish we got more time with Chris's sister and his friend. But even with that, this is a damn good film that I could easily recommend, and this is a solid directorial debut of Shaw Wang. At number 22 is the newest film directed by Richard Linklater, Hitman. I've never been the biggest fan of this director. Sure, he made School of Rock, but it's been ages since I've seen that, and his other films I never got into. And now the films I've seen from him, this has to be my favorite so far. This film is a comedy, and it's about a guy who has a side job with the police, as he pretends to be a hitman to arrest people who hire him, but then he falls in love with a client, and drama unfolds. The best aspect is the writing. The things that happen in this movie could have been seen as cliched or just bad, but the director knew where to strike a balance, and it really pays off. Another aspect I really like is the characters, as despite this film being fictional, the characters feel like real people, and especially for the main lead, played by Glenn Powell. He brings his character with so much personality, not just him playing different characters, but he also has a bit of self-awareness, and when he falls in love, he questions himself about his own identity. A lot of the side characters have great charisma and are very interesting, like the love interest that the main character goons to, and even the people who get arrested are fun to watch. Currently, Hitman is on Netflix, and I hope this video gives this movie more attention, as Netflix didn't do any marketing for this. Anyway, a very good film, and fuck you Netflix. At number 21 is the Netflix documentary, Will and Harper. Although I love this documentary, the subject matter of being trans is a little bit out of my reach, as I'm pansexual, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing the trans community any favors, so I really need an expert on this subject. Now, who do I know that is trans?
Okay, Leo, say baby bird.
Fuck!
No, Leo, say baby bird.
What the hell? Oh, hey Ricky.
Hey Darian, I'm just gonna go over Will and Harper.
Oh, awesome. That was my favorite of the ones we watched together.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble talking about this one. Do you want to help me out?
Sure.
This documentary is about Will Ferrell and his friend going on a road trip across America, as his friend for the past 30 years recently transitioned into a woman, as Will Ferrell is there to help out his friend Harper. Usually I'm not into documentaries because, well, even though I do enjoy them, they're not my type of film, especially that it's kind of hard to really rate these, but I felt this one was pretty damn good for what it is. The one thing I really appreciated, as usually in other like gay or trans films, I am a little bit towards the pickier side, but this one does a great job at it. And what do you feel about this one, Darian?
Well, I really related to it. As someone who's trans, I know, shocker, but as someone who's trans, it really hit close to home, and I really related to what Harper was feeling and going through. It was really nice seeing Will Ferrell trying to be a good friend, but also sometimes making things worse in an attempt to make his friend feel better. He seems like a really good friend and ally, and I'm happy the documentary didn't try scooting around when he messes up, because it makes it feel more real.
Especially that one part when they're in Texas. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking cried at that scene, because just seeing Will Ferrell break down like that, you never seen Will Ferrell break down like this, because you're used to him being in comedies.
Yeah, and really showed him as a person instead of like Will Ferrell the comedian. It's like Will Ferrell the person, and it's really nice to get that kind of insight into a celebrity. Like, I feel this way. I'm a big Beatles fan, as you know. Like, it's kind of similar to like Get Back and like Beatles' first US visit documentaries. But it shows them as normal, real people, which is all that celebrities are. They're just normal people who are famous. Like, Harper isn't like just some person he picked off the street, you know. He was friends with her, years and years and years ago on SNL. It's a real friendship.
I feel bad for putting this lower on the list because this is a really damn good documentary. But there's other films I love way more than this, but that's why this is a top 30. But I still highly recommend Will and Harper. So if you have Netflix, go check this out. Thank you for helping out, Darian, and I'll send you back.
What the fuck?
At number 20 is Transformers 1. People, you better watch this. Now, calm down. Before I get heated, let's talk about the plot. This is the origin story of the Transformers we know today, as it shows that Optimus Prime and Megatron used to be friends until they became the rivals we know today. First off, the animation. F***ing gorgeous. I mean, just look at this. Second, all the characters are really well written. Third, the story. Engaging. Fourth, the music. There's just so much to love about this movie. And I really don't want to get into everything because, my god, this is one of the best movies to watch blind. But the reason why I was starting to get a little bit heated while recording this is because, well, you Paramount, you f***ed over this movie from the start. Like, do you remember the trailer for this movie? It was shit. It caused this movie to bomb. And I know that people are probably disinterested in Transformers because of the Michael Bay films, but even then, that's not an excuse to make this movie fail. And just because it's animated doesn't mean it's directly for kids. Like, there are some really dark moments here. And one of the main things that make this movie dark is Megatron. Like, holy shit. Brian Trey Henry gave a f***ing phenomenal performance as Megatron. If there was ever an Oscar for best voice acting, he would f***ing win it. But the main reason why this is number 20 on the list, well, obviously there's way more movies I love more than this. And second, I felt like the first 20 minutes was a bit slow for me, and also a little bit too fast. And technically, Bumblebee is the worst part of this movie. But despite all that, this is a f***ing fantastic film that everyone needs to watch, and I don't know how to end this segment, so I'm just gonna leave it with this.
Badass.
At number 19 is the DreamWorks film, The Wild Robot. Although my issues do stem from the fact that this film does have some of the kids cliche I am a bit tired of seeing, and the villain sucks. But despite that, I still love this movie. The story is about a robot that is programmed to help humans get stranded on an island filled with animals that has to raise a baby goose. The voice performance by Lupita Nyong'o gives the robot so much personality, makes me care about what she does, and getting emotional at times, despite her being a machine. The voice performances for the animals were pretty good, but the actor they got to voice the fox is genius casting. And originally, I wasn't too hyped for this film, as the first trailer made this movie look so good, but when the second trailer came out with the animals talking, I was a little bit disappointed and worried, as I kinda wanted the movie to have no talking animals, and that second trailer made the movie look dumb. But luckily someone on Twitter corrected my stupid ass and told me the animals do talk in the book. So thank you to that person on Twitter. Although a tiny bit of me wish the animals didn't speak at all, the animation's breathtaking, the music and the sound is so good. Although I will say, there are certain points in the movie with the music was a bit too whimsical. There's a scene with the robot touching a wall full of butterflies, but the music they played during that scene was so unnecessary. The movie has so many memorable moments, and for Adam to say this movie's boring makes me question if he enjoys anything. Joking aside, even though this movie isn't as great as The Last Wish, The Wild Robot manages to be great on its own, and I personally hope the sequel is good as the first one. Up next at number 18 is The Brutalist, directed by Brady Corbet. Yeah, I know you're sick and tired of seeing this in everyone else's list, but I can't help it. This movie's f***ing good. A Jewish architect who survived the Holocaust immigrates to America as the struggles of wealth and addiction that leads to the dark reality of the American dream. Adrian Brody's performance is f***ing brilliant, as his character is a broken man as he's trying his best in this environment that he's not familiar with, and no matter how many times he tries, there are things that really break this man, not just from his past, but the present. Guy Pearson is really damn great in this. His character is complex as his wealthy millionaire that helps Adrian's character with his craft of architecting, but the reality of Guy's character is a despicable person, and that moment later between Adrian and Guy's characters is shocking and disturbing. There's a lot more characters I could go on, but we'll be here all day, so all I gotta say is they also give out great performances too. The original score for this film is phenomenal, and the cinematography is absolutely breathtaking. One of the things I hear people complain about is the runtime, as this film goes for 3 hours and 35 minutes. Well, people, if you guys could sit through an entire Chris Chan documentary, then you could survive another 4 hours. And I didn't get bored once from The Brutalist. But the one thing I agree on is the ending. And yes, I agree, the ending is a bit rushed, but I think that was the whole point, especially with the final lines in the context. But I will say, I wish it was a bit more complete, where it still rushed things, but still has a little bit more of a conclusion. And not gonna lie, there are certain moments in the movie that really dragged and could have been easily cut out and make the movie shorter by a minute. But even with those complaints, The Brutalist is an American tale of classism, artistic vision, and the American dream that is still relevant. And unfortunately, for how things are going right now, this movie's a scary reminder of the dark side of America. At number 17 is the dark comedy drama Kinds of Kindness, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. This movie is basically 3 stories in one, and the only thing that's really connected with these 3 stories is one character. Now out of the 3 stories, originally the first one was my favorite, but after rewatching this film, the second story is my personal favorite. Now the third story is still my least favorite out of the 3, but I still think it's pretty good, but not as strong. Now this film's dark sense of humor really elevates the stories in this, and what makes this work is all the performances by these actors, as all these different actors play different characters, but Jesse Plemons, he is f***ing great in this. And the original score by Jerskin Fredericks is f***ing great. Out of the films on this list, this one's a little bit hard to recommend, as the humor in this could be a turnoff for people, but if you do like Yorgos Lanthimos, this is a good one, but for everyone else, this one I would say watch it with an open mind. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. And number 16 is the horror film Smile 2. Not gonna lie, I wasn't very interested in the first one, as the trailer for it looked pretty stupid. I did watch it later on. While the first Smile wasn't amazing, it had moments where I really appreciate, and I saw so much potential. And Smile 2 absolutely blows the first one out of the water. The film takes place weeks after the first one, where a pop star trying to make a comeback is later cursed by the Smile Demon and needs to find a way to break the curse. Usually I'm not into horror films, especially the jump scare variety, but this one really got to me. The main lead, who plays Sky Riley, is f***ing phenomenal, as she has to play this girl who can't get over something that happened in the past, while being cursed to the Smile Demon, bringing her stress to a whole new level, and holy shit, she does a great job. The other actors like the mom character, the friend, the assistant, and others do a good job what they do in the film, but the main star is the horror itself. And like I said before, it really got to me. But it's done in a way where it surprises you in many different ways. It makes Sky Riley's situation a lot more intense. One thing to mention, Smile 2 does have humor like the first one, but it's done so much better and fits the tone. My main issue with Smile 2 is that it's 2 hours and 7 minutes, but could have easily been trimmed down by like 5 minutes. Even with that, Smile 2 surpasses the first one, and how this one ended, I can't wait to see what the future holds for this franchise. At number 15 on my list is The Last Stop in Yuma County. A knife salesman and a waitress become hostages as 2 bank robbers are hiding out in a diner, as the other patrons don't even know that they're the robbers, and if the knife salesman and the waitress say anything, they're dead. For a movie only being 91 minutes, this has so much high tension. I love the performances in this, as each character has different personalities, and when it comes to the situation on where these characters are put in, but I love how it's done in a way of how people would realistically act in a situation. This movie takes place in one location in the middle of a desert, and this movie absolutely does a great job of making you feel the tension, not just from the villains, but the location, from the heat to the sound. The music is really done well. I love the direction where the film went, and there was a moment that I did not expect. And this is the director's first movie. There's so much I want to talk about, but I just be getting to spoilers. So with that, an amazing movie, and I hope my video gives this movie more recognition. At number 14 on my list is National Anthem, directed by Luke Guilford, and holy crap, this is a good film. Before we get into the film, I'm gonna bring back that friend of mine.
Icky again? Really? The hell, I was about to find Carnival of Light.
Well, sorry, I want to talk about this other film we watched.
Alright, I guess it could wait. Which one is it this time?
National Anthem.
Oh, National Anthem.
Anyway, oh yeah, Luke Garfield.
Garfield, like, hey John, I want some lasagna. I hate Mondays. I'm gonna kick Odie off the table.
Anyway, this film focuses on a guy named Dylan as he gets work for a queer ranch, as he starts to feel like he's finally part of something.
I thought it was a pretty good movie. It's shot beautifully, it's got amazing editing, the acting is good, but my issues with the movie really lost me around halfway in, because it feels like it's setting up to one thing, and then they're like, fuck you, we're not doing that, we're doing something else, and kind of is annoying to me.
But to be fair, you are a normie after all.
Hey, little bitch.
Now for me, they did a really great job with this. Like, I love the acting and like she mentioned, beautiful camera work and all that. I love the music choices. They really fit the film. Even though there was one song almost at the end, I was a little bit on the, okay, this is a little too cheesy. But one thing about the film I wasn't a big fan of is the fact that Dylan has a little brother in the movie, and in the beginning he was quite bad, but he got way better later on and I liked him. One thing I really appreciated was the fact that when we get to like the relationship between Dylan and this character named Sky, wow, it was quite beautiful. Even though it was a bit of an open relationship, just a tiny bit of spoiling, but not really. Not gonna say who with. Anyway, this is a fantastic film in my opinion. Don't listen to her, she doesn't know anything about film.
Hey, not true.
Whatever. And number 13 is We Live in Time. This is a British film starring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, as the film jumps from the present to the past of the two relationship, from the best to the worst moments in their lives. I was originally gonna put this film like at number 19, but when I rewatched this film for a second time, it really connected with me on an emotional level. I love the performances by Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Those two really worked well with each other. I like how this film is a little bit of slice of life. It does have drama, it has some funny parts. There's a scene that takes place in a gas station. It's one of the most funny and beautiful moments in the film. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. There's not really much for me to say because, well, it's a very simple film, but with a little bit of complexity and straight to the point. Not much left for me to say about... Shut the fuck up, dog. Not much left for me to say about We Live in Time, but give it your time.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Up next is Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers. I'm not really the biggest fan of his films. As The Witch, from what I remember, I fell asleep. The Lighthouse was pretty overrated, and I have not seen Northman. But from what I've seen from him, I really did like his visuals and his production design, and I felt like he could really make a good vampire film. And Nosferatu, it did not disappoint. First off, when it comes to the production and the costume designs, it looks really incredible and fits the decade. Another thing, the makeup, specifically for Nosferatu himself, wow, it looks really good. It might look goofy to some people, but to me, it looks great, fuck you. And speaking of Nosferatu, Bill Skarsgård is really damn good in this. I really love the fact that his performance makes vampires terrifying again. None of that Twilight sparkling bullshit. All the other performances are really good as well, but Lily Rose Depp absolutely stole the show here. I love the character she plays, and I love how her performance goes from normal to absolutely holy shit. So much in fact, I just want to ask, how the f did she not get an Oscar nomination? I'm sorry Cynthia, you should've got snubbed. Anyway, about the story, I felt like a little bit could have been trimmed down, but even then, the story was really engaging. Even though this movie isn't exactly scary in terms of horror standards, instead, Nosferatu relies on atmospheric horror, much like the classics from the 1920s. But don't worry, the film does have some disturbing imagery, and holy shit, some of the imagery was giving me goosebumps. So if you want to watch a modern classic horror film that relies on the atmosphere and the imagery, Nosferatu does it very well. And finally, at number 11 is Look Back. The main story is about two girls' love for drawing manga. Simple enough concept, but holy f***, this film gets really sad. Like when I first heard about this movie, and how it goes from 0 to 180 halfway. I didn't believe it, but man, it hits you hard. But don't worry, it has its moments where it makes you smile and laugh. But Jesus, this movie gets sad. The writing is great, and the two girls have differences in terms of personality, but it is enough towards relatable. Usually movies like this are over 90 minutes, but Look Back is less than an hour. Yeah, there's no excuse for you to say you don't have time. Amazing music, beautiful animation. Not much for me to say, as I would basically summarize the whole film. It's on Amazon Prime, so check it out. Alright now, with those out of the way, time to get to the main event. Without wasting time, at number...
Hold me, never let me go.
The Girl with the Needle. One of the most disturbing films of 2024. This Danish film is about a girl in the 1910s as she goes through some rough times, and especially that her husband came back disfigured after the war. That's the best I could say without giving anything away, which may piss you off, but trust me, it's worth it. But getting to the main lead,
Vic Carmanzana.
Performance is fantastic as her character goes through some and seeing that will traumatize anyone. making her performance very believable. There's a character named Dagmar that helps her out. However, that's where the movie gets really disturbing. But man, it works so fucking well. And it isn't bullshit disturbing like Mother or that pile of shit. The film's dark tone and gloomy nature makes the subject matter a lot more dark. And it is so well done that honestly I wish this movie got nominated for Best Picture. And while I was looking up information about this film, I found out that it's loosely based on true events, which makes the girl with the needle feel more real and f***ed up. Sorry if I'm not saying a lot about the girl with the needle, but the only way for you to get the idea why I like this movie is for you to experience it blind. The Seed of a Sacred Fig. One of the most interesting and intense films of the year, not just because of the film itself, but what happened in real life. The film is about a judge struggling with paranoia in Tehran. When his gun goes missing, he suspects his wife and daughter stealing the gun, and then more events leading to the family's demise. A great premise, but why did I mention that this film is interesting and intense in real life? Well, the film criticizes the politics in Iran, but saying stuff about the government can lead you to imprisonment or be executed, so the director and his crew had to make the film in secret, and after filming, they are no longer allowed in Iran. So for them to risk their own lives to make this is f***ing badass. Anyway, back to the movie itself. Does me mentioning about this make me like the film automatically? Nope, because the film manages to stand on its own without the backstory I mentioned. The Seed of a Sacred Fig, or The Seed for short, is almost a 3-hour film, but it doesn't get boring once. The performances, from what I can tell, are fantastic, and I especially love the performance by
Miss Azera.
He gives his character so much depth. Some people complain that his character changed too fast, but to me, it didn't change that fast. As you see subtle hints, from his facial to tone expression, pulls off so well, making the character much more believable. The drama so well directed as tension grows, not just for the family, but what's going on around them. If you have the patience and can read subtitles, give this a watch, and you'll understand why The Seed made it to the top 10.
Locked-in chickens picking out a mate. Guess I'll marry 8.
Mars Express. How the hell did this not get any marketing? This film is f***ing awesome. This French animated film is about 2 detectives on a case of murder and conspiracy. A very simple premise, but holy crap, this movie really impressed me. This film is directed by the same guy who made this masterpiece. Yeah, I'm not joking. Which, if you've never seen, go look it up after this video, and make sure you watch this version. Anyway, the director gives his own take to the sci-fi genre, like how humans are basically racist towards androids, and how technology progressed in really cool ways. The main lead, Ellie, she doesn't have much depth in terms of backstory, but her quirks and the dialogue says enough about her. But the best character, Elaine's android partner, Carlos. This guy is awesome. A lot of depth, and something in the past that happened to him, I felt bad for his character. When I was watching this with my friend, he teared up at one moment, and this is the same friend who said crying's for p***s. Despite Mars Express being only an hour and a half, there is so much to unpack. The side characters are interesting, and have a lot of personality. The music is fucking awesome, and despite this film being animated, it has some kick-ass action scenes, great camera work, and imagery that I'm sure that'll inspire future filmmakers. Mars Express has a lot to offer to everybody, and f*** you G-Kids for not marketing this. Fantastic film, and I can't wait to see more from this director. Thelma. Out of the films I reviewed on my channel, which isn't a lot, the rating for this one has not changed a bit. A story about a grandma getting scammed and goes on her own to get her money back while meeting up with an old friend along the way. The film is very simple, but man, the film's simplicity is what makes it work. This movie has a simple message, and yes, some cliches along the way, but I feel it's done on purpose because the movie itself knows it's stupid, but it manages to be smart and clever. June Squibb as the lead is so good that despite her age, she manages to be likable and understanding, and this is the first time she's playing the main character. Richard Roundtree, rest in peace, is also really good. The actors who play the parents and the son, even though they don't have much screen time like June, but they have certain quirks in the characters that shine, and especially the son character, which I really liked. Not to mention the movie's themes of aging, and there'll be a time we won't be as strong or have a good memory, but you find a way to show others that you can still be you despite the challenges you face. There are so many laughs and some drama, and I love how the music complements the tone. The one thing that hasn't changed is there was a scene to get off a situation, and one dramatic scene that felt so off from the film and could have used another rewrite. However, it doesn't affect my enjoyment any less. So if you want a simple comedy about a grandma kicking ass, this one is for you. Anora, a film about a prostitute wanting a Cinderella ending, falls in love with a young Russian as the Russian's family trying to break them apart. Even though I'm explaining the plot very poorly, this movie has so many twists and turns that I didn't expect. The first 50 minutes is what I expected, but it was still really good. But after those 50 minutes, my god, it becomes one of the best f***ing films of the year. With so many laughs, so much drama, and overall fun, there's a reason why this won Best Picture. Mickey Madison is f***ing great in this. Her performance ranges from sometimes unlikable to sometimes relatable. Her character is simple, but with a lot of depth. Some people might not like the fact that she's unlikable sometimes, but in all fairness, fuck off. The other actors, they were great as well. The boyfriend Yvonne was a lot of fun to watch. The parents, his henchmen, they were great as well, but one stands out the most, and that is Yura, who plays Igor. His character is mostly keep to himself, but whenever he's on screen, there was a reason why he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And hell, some of the smaller characters in this, like the characters who work at the strip club, they were all great as well. The film's sense of humor really works here, but that doesn't affect the drama, as Sean Baker's directing and writing makes every scene feel believable and engaging. Even with the movie's depressing ending, I still rewatch this film. There's so much I love about Anora. Why am I talking about it? Go see it for yourself. Civil War. Wow, what a film. In a dystopian future, a group of journalists are traveling to Washington, D.C. as America is in an all-out civil war. After the film ended, not only I was impressed, but it left me terrified. What I love about this film, it doesn't really have a side for you to pick on, as you follow these journalists to report and take pictures of the events, and let us make our own guesses into the film's universe. Speaking of which, the main leading actors do a great job playing these characters as they go on this f***ed up road trip across America. The characters might not have a lot of backstory, but it does work for a film like this, especially for Kirsten Dunst's character. And my boy Ron Swanson is the president. Come to think about it, I like to imagine that Civil War is secretly a sequel to Parks and Recreation. The cinematography is beautiful, and there are some shots that are still stuck in my head. There's a lot of shocking moments, and what helps these scenes be more intense is the sound mixing, and my god, it f***ing works. Especially that one part in the first 7 minutes, and if you know, you know. And what makes this movie more terrifying is that this movie has already predicted certain events that happen in real life, and for how things are going, it'll make Civil War more of a cautionary tale. The one thing I really don't like about this film, there was a scene that was very intense, but the song they used in that scene was very out of place, and I watched this movie 3 times, and it still felt out of place. One thing I want to mention, that some complain that they wish they saw more of what's going on in the film. Well, I can understand where they're coming from, but I like how it's left for interpretation. Despite the film's simple narrative, Civil War manages to stand on its own, giving us a different perspective on war and a scary reminder on what's to come. Memoir of a Snail. In my opinion, the best animated film of 2024. A girl named Grace, who's been through many misfortunes in her life, from her childhood to being an adult, as the only thing that keeps her comfort is snail collecting. This film is made by Adam Elliott, who made one of my all-time favorite films, Mary and Max, and even though I prefer that film way more, Memoir of a Snail manages to find its own identity. Does it have a bit of similarities when it comes to the dark comedy and people's misfortunes? Yes, but there are new things that Adam brings to the table. When it comes to the story and where it goes in many different directions that surprised me, as there are things that I didn't expect to happen. The one aspect I love is how the film balances out Grace when it comes to her bad to worst days in her life, but it also tries to keep it lighthearted with moments that brings her joy. In other movies I would have seen this as sappy, but here, it's done extremely well. There is a reason why this film has an R rating. Memoir of a Snail does have a bit of sex humor and swearing, but it's done in a way where it adds to the plot for Grace's misfortunes, where you start to feel bad for laughing at it in a good way. The side characters are so memorable, especially for Grace's twin brother Gilbert, which he goes through some misfortunes as well. But my personal favorite character is Pinky. Without spoiling, there's a reason why she's my favorite. The film's dark humor and sad moments really blend so well, but when that ending hits, my god, I was crying so much. Even though Mary and Max made me cry so much more than this, but I feel like over time, this might top it, but who knows. Anyway, go see this film, and to quote the message, life can be understood backwards, but we have to live it forwards.
Dance with me, Disco 3.
Crossing. Wow. This one, really emotional. And to get into that emotion, I'm gonna bring back someone I know.
Hey, I was just about to do something that would get this video age restricted. What is it now?
Well, I was gonna talk about Crossing.
Crossing? That one's my second favorite. I love that one.
Anyway, this film was about...
Hey now, you got to say what all the other ones were about. Why can't I do it?
Fine, you could go ahead.
This film is about a retired teacher who, with the help of her ex-student's teenage brother, go to Turkey in search of her long-lost trans niece. Along the way, we meet a bunch of fun characters, including a transgender lawyer, but no spoilers, it's Ricky's rules.
A lot of times I'm very picky on gay films, because a lot of times they require the audience to be gay themselves, but this one doesn't need that.
I really enjoyed this movie. It felt real, and it was nice. Despite the transgender characters not coming in until much later in the film, it's still very much based around trans people. And I also really enjoyed seeing the teacher character grow throughout the film. I also liked how the trans characters don't feel like set dressing. They feel like a part of the story.
Yeah, mentioning about the teacher, I loved her character, especially that she feels like someone I do know. And even though this film is both in Turkish and Georgian, I really love the performances as these actors make these characters feel like real people. And especially when it comes to the trans lawyer, Irvine, I don't know how to say it. And especially that now that in Georgia, they've been recently doing bans on a lot of things LGBT related. This film needs to be more seen when it comes to that type of aspect. I love how the film builds up, and especially when it comes to the ending. My god, I was crying 3 times during this film.
I know, because I was there. I teared up a bit at the end too.
For you teared up, but for me, I was bawling my eyes out.
When Ricky showed it to me, I was really excited to get it for my own movie collection, but then I was told it wasn't released here, only in England.
And I do own the English Blu-ray, but I don't own a region-free player. If you want to watch this movie currently, you can watch this on Amazon Prime Video at the moment. And unfortunately at the moment, this film does not have any attention, especially when it comes to YouTube reviewers. And hopefully with this video coming out, it gives Crossing so much attention.
There's so much I want to get into, but I'd be spoiling the film. So go check out Crossing, 10 out of 10, no questions asked.
And you got anything else to say?
You guys should check out my YouTube channels, Darian the Imp and Darian the Imp the...
Who cares? Bye.
Now wait just a minute. I only talked about the trans films with him. That motherfucker...
The Secret Art of Human Flight. H.P. Mendoza, I finally said his name right, thank God, is a director that definitely needs more attention, but his newest film is super unknown, as I barely see anyone review this film, and I feel like I'm the only super fan. Also, he follows me on Twitter. Anyway, the movie is about a writer named Ben coping after his wife's death as he goes on a personal journey with the help of a guru named Mealworm to learn the ability to fly. Grant Rosenmeyer does a great job playing this grieving husband as he feels lost on what to do in his life, and we get to know more about him and his insecurities. Paul Raci absolutely steals the show, but doesn't overshadow Grant's performance, as these two do a great job with each other, and not only they made me laugh, but I also connected with these two. The other actors might not have much screen time like Grant or Paul, but do have parts that are very important to the story. The camera work is very interesting, and the original score really complements the scenes, and sometimes I hum the main score. The film's themes of grief and acceptance has been done in other films, but I love the execution and how much it tore me apart. When I first watched this at the theater, I thought it was good and it was going to be like an 8 out of 10, but past the 45-minute mark is where the film goes from good to great, and after it was done, I was not only impressed, but speechless. Something about this movie really touched me on a personal level. It's hard for me to explain, but this film really hits me close to home. I hope with me putting this film on the list, especially being this high up, you take this leap on a beautiful journey about grief. Before we get to my number 1 favorite of the year, I received something in the mail that's supposed to help me with my stuttering problems.
Get ready, time for crashing.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. One single injection unlocks your DNA and will release another version of yourself. This is the substance.
Holy fuck. That was something. The 2020s decade has been pumping out some really good horror films, and usually I'm not into them because, although I have a really good time, a lot of them are generic and you know what's gonna happen from a mile away. So it's rare for me to absolutely love a horror film. But here, you have no f***ing idea on what's gonna happen next. If you somehow never heard of this masterpiece, The Substance is about an aging movie star named Elizabeth Sparkle, who's fired from her job after she turned 50. This leads her to use a black market drug called The Substance that can make another version of herself. And that's all I'm gonna say, because then I'd be spoiling everything. Coralie Farge's direction and writing takes concepts that have been done before and elevates it to a whole new level. Demi Moore's performance is phenomenal, and despite her being in her 60s, she does things that would be very challenging and uncomfortable for other actresses. But Demi takes it like a champ and brings a harsh and honest performance. Margaret Qualley as the other version, known as Sue, I love, but also hate her character, as Sue is beauty on the outside, but due to new stardom, she's become very selfish and leads to her downfall, as Margaret does a great job with this performance. Dennis Quaid plays this piece of Hollywood producer. Although his character doesn't have much debt and screen time, his mannerisms are all you need to know about his character. I mean, his character is literally named Harvey. Suspicious. One thing I definitely appreciate is how The Substance doesn't have any jump scares, but instead, it relies on the imagery and the sound. We will get to sound in a bit. One thing I want to mention is the cinematography is perfect, but holy the imagery gets to me. Like, there was a point just looking at one scene, I wanted to throw up. The special effects and makeup are amazing, as there's a lot of practical effects used and very little CGI. The music is so memorable that I can't get it out of my head, but the sound design, it grosses me the out. You understand for the first 10 minutes, and I you not. One scene when the audio distorts, it physically hurts my ears, and I love it. The sound and music is so good, in fact, that the Oscars, they didn't nominate both of them. Wow, that shows how stupid they are. Anyway, back to the film itself. There's just so much I want to say because the film has a lot more depth, and I've watched this film 8 times, and it never gets boring. Moral of the story: The Substance will stand the test of time to show how creative freedom and risk is worth it to make something truly unique and memorable. And that is why The Substance is my #1 favorite movie of 2024. Well, that was my end of the year list. And, excuse me for one moment.
Oh, fuck, what happened to me? Did I even record the last part of the video? Huh, guess I did. I'll have to check that out later. Anyway, that was my top 10 of 2024. I hope this list got you interested to see new movies. If there's some films you want me to check out, or tell me your top 10, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see what films I've seen recently, follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Ricky the Kitsune, signing off. Why isn't the music playing?
Oh, Darian. Hi.
Don't hi me, Ricky. You used me.
What do you mean?
You only got me to talk about the trans films and not the other films.
Well, you see, I wanted to get you because you're the expert and not a movie expert.
Oh, just because I'm trans means I'm the expert?
I guess so.
Oh, now you're gonna get it.
And exactly what you're gonna do to me? Heh, it's just a fire. Like how that's gonna work on me. No, no, not my limited edition of hundreds of beavers and the signed poster.
Will you do as I say?
Yes, I'll do anything you say. Please don't hurt my babies.
You promise?
I promise. What is it you want me to do?